Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Brian if you're new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here. This is the Scholar Controller Guide, and for Endwalker for Final Fantasy XIV, what we're going to be doing in this guide is we're going to actually not just make this about controller players, we're going to walk you guys through also all the skills for Scholar. Being a healer in Final Fantasy XIV is no small task. And it's my hope that this guide will help give you guys some insight both into controller gameplay and how you set it up, but also into how you play the Scholar here in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, if you guys have any questions or you have tips of your own, feel free to leave those in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, and this is the video that gets you to do it, be sure to sound off in the comments below so I can officially welcome you to the Final Fantasy XIV channel of mine. And let's go ahead and have some fun. Now, as part of this series for Endwalker, I would like to point you to the pinned comment in this video because this is going to actually bring you to what I call my user macros section, and I'm going to have the macros that you see here featured in the game available to you to just copy and paste and actually execute these on your own, which will actually set up your hotbars exactly like I have mine set up. Not to say this is the only way to play, but just to help make it easier when getting started. And this actually works from level 1 all the way through level 90. The skills can be set and they will automatically upgrade as you level up as well, just to help give you guys some comfort, hopefully help give you guys just an easing in to the game and playing on a controller itself. Now, as far as these guides go, outside of that, I'm going to walk you through each and all the skills in the playhead of YouTube. You can easily jump to any section that you want the most, because as we start this out, I'm going to walk it through like you've never seen any of these guides before to try to give you guys my layout, my setup, and just make it as easy as possible. So, feel free to skip this next section if you've already got set up for a controller, because we're just going to hit the high notes. If you are looking for more detailed, focused controller guides, check out my complete controller guide, and I'll have that also in the playlist that you can easily hopefully find, and and just make the best out of it. Welcome to Final Fantasy XIV. If no one's told you that already, let's go ahead and dive into the guide. First and foremost, I'm going to go actually into system configuration and into my gamepad settings, and under button configuration, I actually have my R3 stick to execute macro 99. The reason I want to highlight this first, because if I jump back into my HUD layout, which just makes no sense into my user macros, you can see here in my 99 position, I actually am using, my mount roulette, all of my different, sprint options for PvP and PvE. And so what this actually looks like when executed in the game itself, if I just click on this and I can summon my mount, I will, and I can do so and be able to ride whatever mount because I have it set to my roulette. If I want to go ahead and sprint in the open world, I can just jump, and now I'm actually sprinting. Same kind of function actually works for PvP as well. If I cannot summon a mount, it will automatically go into the sprint because the macro uses the fail through methodology, and you will find that macro also on the page. So you can kind of copy and paste this if you want to save yourself a couple of different buttons. So that's going to be how that functions and works. Now, if we go into my character configuration, you'll see my gamepad mode, and I can toggle between gamepad and keyboard, but I could still use my controller even in keyboard and mouse mode. Just note that you actually get a couple different UI settings to be able to play around with. I also use legacy type based movement. That means my character runs in whatever direction, but if you want to actually change that up and give yourself a little bit more when you back up instead of running sideways, you can actually have a little bit more control over how that plays out. Now, in the target section, I had turned off automatically lock on targets when initiating auto target. You can actually do that by clicking on the left stick as a button click with the target selected. It's going to be up to you. Honestly, I say kind of play around with these settings, what works the best. I also have auto target according to priority and based off the closest range. This is a new feature that they brought in with patch 6.1. Highly recommended, especially as a controller player. You can also enable full auto target if necessary. And then you have a couple more options like display rings and more. So overall, like again, I'm not going to go through each one of these settings because I've done that already in another video, but I just wanted to highlight and call those out. Under filters, I have my target cycling set when my weapon is sheathed to this list. You'll see party members is turned off both times because to target party members, you just use up and down on the D-pad. In fact, if I go and highlight that for you guys right now, it looks like only EOS is out. So let me go ahead and bring out my companion. And you can see my party list gets filled with dragon here, and I can hit up and down to be able to cycle through my party list, and that's very helpful as a healer. And then left and right would be for the different targeting dummies. And if I bring out my weapon, left and right does that. And then if I need to target me or the party, I can do that up and down with that dedicated selection. Then you see that listed here, and you can also have additional custom filters by holding down the left bumper and one of the face buttons, Y, X, A, B in this case. And then the other aspect, if you guys don't know, left bumper acts as a way that you can kind of toggle your character, your camera, by holding left bumper and moving up and down. So you can kind of adjust your position accordingly, and you actually have a lot of control. L bumper ends up acting as a real kind of powerful key that can do multiple different types of commands for you. So just note, we're not going to dive into it, but ultimately I want to point you in that direction. Hotbar settings, I have to display recast times, hide unassigned slots. If I turn that off, you'll see a lot of little floating bars. Display hotbar numbers is turned off. If I turn that on, you'll see a lot of little floating numbers out there. Enable hotbar cycling button. You can have the enable pet hotbar when cycling and enable drag and drop repositioning. I also have hotbar 3 through 7 in this case enabled. Now 1 and 2 currently turned off, and pet hotbar turned off as well. And you can change up its positionings and shapes there. And if we go into sharing, you'll see why. Pretty much 6 through 10 are going to be shared across all of my jobs. This allows me to put out any number of different things. Like, you really can't see it here on this recording, but up here in the upper left hand corner on all my jobs, I want to be able to look at my different marks, maybe eat some smoked chicken, I don't know, track my raw emotion. So you can use the UI to kind of handle all that. Under cross hotbar, I have 7 and 8 shared. So if I kind of switch into the cross hotbar itself and go to 8, you can see 7 and 8 will have these shared options like mounts, my wondrous tails, things of that nature, all available to me. Under the cross section, I have always display crossbar hotbar. You can turn that off if you want a more immersive experience. I've turned off a display hotbar help, but if I turn that on, you have to hit apply. You'll actually see the names of the abilities as I hold it down. But if I turn that off, you'll see that as I hold it down, it's a very clean experience. Overall, I say use pet hotbar for mount actions, enable duty action input, and display control guide all turned on. The mode is hold. This is going to give you the ability to do hold left or hold right, but when you release, you have no actions, and so then A, B, X, and Y will act as different buttons like jump and interact, etc. But if you struggle, you can always try toggle or mix. The thing that this actually gives me is the ability to use the left trigger, right trigger for the expanded hotbar, and the double tap for the W cross hotbar as well. So those are all available under hold. Toggle and mixed won't give you all of those features, but if you're struggling with some dexterity in your hands, just note that you can try those out, find a little bit more comfortable position. It will just change how you lay out your skills. Always display the W cross hotbar is turned on. If I turn it off, you see that kind of disappears, but I can still double tap to get into it. I have returned to cross hotbar after W cross hotbar input. So if I go ahead and use like lucid dreaming, you can see here I now join into that. And let me go ahead and actually back out. So that is dealing with that setting. And then finally under custom, I have expanded controls with 2 left and 2 right. So if I hold down the L1 button and jump into the 2 section, you'll see here this is actually my expanded cross hotbar, and then my double cross hotbar is actually the 3 left and the 3 right. Now you won't be able to drag and drop skills onto the W cross hotbar. You actually have to drag and drop them onto the expanded cross hotbar. Sorry, like the hotbar set 3 in this case. So that's where that's linked. Otherwise, it's only going to throw you off a little bit when doing so. Okay, that's essentially how you kind of get set up and going. Again, I would encourage you to check out the full video for an insane amount of tips and a insane amount of walkthrough. So if you're struggling or if you really want to know and take your controller gameplay to the next level, that video should do it for you. And you can find that over on Ginger Prime. I'll include a link to it as well. All right, let's jump into our actions and traits for the Scholar. Scholar is a job that builds off of Arcanist, and it has one shared skill, which is Resurrection. If we jump into our role skills, you got Sleep, you got remove a debuff, where a debuff can be removed. Look for the blue line above the debuff to tell you that it can be removed. Lucid Dreaming, restore more MP to you. Rescue, pull an ally. You could totally troll somebody with this. Out of bad. Surecast is going to prevent most knockbacks and draw in effects, and that's actually very helpful. And then you have Swiftcast, which will turn any spell into an instacast, and that's got a recast time of 60 seconds. These are pivotal. These are all healer abilities. Then you have Ruin. This is going to be a damage attack with 150 potency. Note that any potencies and things like that you see here have all been set at level 90. So any traits that might modify these, that's going to come into play. So you won't see Ruin on my bar because Ruin turns into Broil and that gets continually upgraded. So this is got to be your main hitting damage skill. This is bio. It's got a dot damage over time effect that will go with a potency of 20 and will last for 30 seconds. Physic is kind of like your main cure. It's got a cure potency of 450. Generally speaking, as a scholar, I rarely cast Physic. This ends up being kind of a last resort. It really just depends on what's happening. Then you have Summon Eos and Summon Selene. There's no difference between these except for just kind of visual looks. And so ultimately just kind of play around with, what is your preferred. But overall, they're going to continue to cast Embrace on your party. That's going to heal them kind of as a persistent hot that's out and available. You will have to summon them, especially if you get knocked out. So pay attention to that and make sure that you have your fairy. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of skills not available to you. Whispering Dawn orders your fairy to execute the Whispering Dawn. If the Seraph is summoned, orders her to execute Angel's Whisper. Whispering Dawn and Angel's Whisper's effect is gradually restores HP to all party members with a cure potency of 80, and that's going to last for 21 seconds. The upgrade to Bio 2 is going to increase the potency from 20 to 40, and that's still going to last 30 seconds. Adloquium or Adlo, it's going to have a cure potency of 300, which is less than Physic, but it will put Galvanize on the target, nullifying damage equaling to 180% of the amount of HP restored. So it's almost double that. So if you heal for say 2,000, it's going to be almost a 4,000 potency shield that gets applied. Now, if you do a critical hit, it also will grant Catalyze, which will nullify damage equaling 180 of the amount of HP restored as well. So that's an additional stack of that. So it just ends up being a big boost to your shield. And that will last for 30 seconds. Then you have Succor. This is going to restore cure potency of 200 with a magic barrier around all your targets around 160% of the amount of HP restored. So this is an AoE heal. And it's got that Magitech barrier of 160%. Ruin 2 is an insta-cast ability. You can actually see I still got Ruin 2 on my bar for the cross bar. This is an insta-cast, so you on the move, you can be able to Ruin 2. Fey Illumination orders Fey to execute the Fey Illumination ability. If Seraph is summoned, orders her to execute Seraph Illumination. The effect is it increases healing magic potency of all nearby party members by 10% while reducing magic damage taken by all nearby party members by 5%. That's going to last for 5 seconds. Cannot be stacked with Seraph Illumination as an FYI. Then you have Aether Flow. This is going to give you 20% of your MP back in this case. And it will also grant you a stack of your Aether Flow. In this case, additional effect Aether Flow 3 can only be used in combat. That's my one complaint about Scholar, is that you have to be in combat in order for you to use this to get your stacks of Aether Flow. Energy Drain will deal unexpected damage with a potency of 100. It also absorbs a portion of damage dealt as HP and increases your fairy gauge by 10. It will cost you 1 point of your Aether Flow. Then you have Lustrate, restores target's HP with a cure potency of 600. Additional effect will actually increase fairy gauge by 10, and the Aether Flow cost will also be 1 as well. Then you have Art of War. This is your AoE damage. Deals unexpected damage with a potency of 165 to all enemies nearby. Sacred Soil creates a designated barrier around the party members and will only suffer 90% of damage that's inflicted for 15 seconds. It has an additional effect of Regen with a cure potency of 100 and increases your fairy gauge by 10 with the Aether Flow gauge cost of 1. Then you have Indomitability. This restores their own HP and HP of all party members with a cure potency of 400. So that's twice that of Succor. Increases the fairy gauge by 10 as well. Then you have Broil. Deals unexpected damage with a potency of 220. This is going to be kind of the upgrade of Ruin for you. So you're going to start to hit a little bit harder with that attack. Then you have Deployment Tactics. This extends Galvanize effect to cast on self or nearby party member. The time remaining on the original effect will have no effect on the target while under the effect of Galvanize. So basically, if you cast Adlo, you can then follow it up with Deployment Tactics to spread that shield to everybody. Adlo is going to have a stronger shield than Succor, so this ends up being quite a powerful combination ability. It only sucks when you end up getting it out of order. So just kind of pay attention to that. So you can take Galvanize and you can spread it around. Then you have Emergency Tactics. This transforms next Galvanize and Catalyze into pure HP recovery. So you can see here with the 15-second recast, if things are going bad, you can use this to really boost up your healing potency of Adlo. So pay attention to that. No disadvantage in that regards. Obviously, you're not getting the shield, but again, you're going with pure HP healing. Then you have Dispensation. This will send your fairy away, granting you full Aetherflow stack. So again, if you are in need and you do not have the ability to Aetherflow itself, you can dispensate. It's got a 180-second recast timer on it, so it's not a always using ability. Anyway, your fairy will return once the effect expires, and you cannot resummon a fairy while you're under this effect. So if you need a stack of, and you gotta wait, this is a good skill to be using in those oh no moments. Then you have XCOG here. Grants self or target party member the effect of XCOG, restoring your HP and the member's HP when your HP falls below 50% or upon the effect duration expiration. So it's got a cure potency of 800, and the effect duration is going to last for 45 seconds. It also increases your fairy gauge. So this is really good, especially in moments of you want to go ahead and pre-cure. You've got them that set up on them. So if they do drop below, it's going to automatically be that 800 potency, which is much more powerful than Lustrate just by 200. So it's a really good heal. But also if they don't end up needing it and they still need a little heal, it still pops that off after the time expires. But if they end up getting hit pretty hard, this is really good for upcoming tank busters and things like that. Then Broil upgrades to Broil 2, increasing its potency to 240. Then you have Trained Stratagem. This increases the rate at which target takes critical hits by 10%. So this is really good to coordinate and pair with any damage burst windows by your team and by your party. Then you learn Aether Pact orders your fairy to execute Fey Union with the target party member, and essentially this is going to cost 10 points of your fairy gauge. This is going to increase the fairy or seraph is summoned, and the Aetherflow action is successfully executed while in combat. So your fairy gauge will increase when a fairy or seraph is summoned, and Aetherflow action is successfully executed, and then overall Fey Union will have that chain to that target, constantly healing them up. We'll cover that when we get into it here in just a little bit under the pet abilities. Then you have Biolysis. This is the upgrade of Bio, deals unexpected damage over time with a potency of 70 and still lasting 30 seconds. Broil 3 increases the potency of Broil 2 to 255. Recitation allows the execution of Adloquium, Succor, or Indomitability, or XCOG without consuming resources, while also ensuring critical HP is restored. So this is a wonderful ability, and also should be definitely paired. So if you want to guarantee that crit, it's not going to use any resources. So using, XCOG, it's not going to burn an Aether flow stack. Then Fate Blessing, you got orders your fairy to execute Fate Blessing. The effect here is restores HP of all party members with a cure potency of 320. Then you have Summon Seraph, learned to level 80. Turns your fairy into Seraph and it fights along your side. When set to guard, automatically casts Seraph's Veil on party members who suffer damage. Cannot summon Seraph unless the pet is already summoned. Current pet will leave the battlefield while Seraph is present and will return once gone, and that will last for 22 seconds. Action changes to Consolation upon execution. Then you have Broil 4, deals unexpected damage with a potency of 295. Art of War 2 is the upgrade of Art of War, deals unexpected damage with a potency of 180 to all nearby enemies. Then at level 86, you learn Protraction, increases maximum HP of a party member or self by 10%, and restores the amount increased. It increases HP recovery also by healing actions by 10%. Then at level 90, you learn Expedient, grants Expedient and Desperate Measures to all nearby party members. This increases your movement speed by 10 seconds. It also reduces damage taken by 10% and will last for 20 seconds. For the Desperate Measures effect, the speed is only 10% in this regards. Then you have Consolation. That's where Summon Seraph changes. This is going to restore the HP of all party members with a cure potency of 250. The effect of Magic Barrier, which nullifies damage equaling the amount of HP restored, is also be put on the targets as well. Then here you can look at the fairy abilities, and you have Embrace, which is a cure potency of 180. Whispering Dawn, that's that cure potency of 80 for 21 seconds AoE heal. Illumination, that's that magic barrier of 10% and 5% according. Then you have Fey Union. This is that cure potency of 300. Fairy gauge is depleted while HP is restored. Fey Union effect fades upon execution of other fairy actions. And you must have the party member within 30 yalms. Fey Blessing restores HP of all nearby party members with a cure potency of 320. The Veil, it has the cure potency of 180, erects a Magitech barrier which nullifies damage equaling the amount of HP restored. Angel's Whisper is the cure potency of 80, and that's going to be heal over time. Seraph Illumination, same effect of the 10% and 5%. We talked about just a second ago, and again, we just covered the Consultation. Cure potency of 250 with the magic barrier for the HP that's been restored. All right, so how does that now all work together as a healer? Now, generally speaking, healers, you're going to find lots of opportunities to do damage. And so how I've got my skills laid out is you can see here over on the left-hand side, generally speaking, I will have my ability to do my attacks and more. So I can go ahead and pop that back on. Now I've got my stacks. Now, generally speaking, let's say in a big pool, I will put down my shield, let that fill up, and continue to also fill up the fairy gauge. If I need to, let's say my tank needs it and the big attacks incoming, I can do that, again increasing my fairy gauge. Now over here on my layout, I've got Whispering Dawn, Fey Illumination, Summon Seraph, which we can go and do, which turns to Consultation, and Fey Blessing. This is essentially kind of as I'm doing my attacks to be able to kind of let my fairy do the job that I want them to ultimately do, and that way I can kind of apply these abilities and still continue my attacks because those fairy abilities are off the global cooldown, meaning I can kind of weave them in between my attacks. As my Aether Flow comes off, I can also burn them, because if this is going to be sitting on cooldown, I want to go and use them. I can use Energy Drain or any other ability that I need to kind of fill that up. Now let's say I wanted to go ahead and use XCOG over here. I can do so by using this ability, Recitation, and thus I can actually execute that. But now the Aether Flow is back up. Should probably use that and to be able to demonstrate some more of these skills. So this is kind of my wheel of pain. If I needed to go run up into kind of an AoE situation, I can easily do that. And the reason I want to have it on these abilities is it gives me the ability to kind of move around and attack and have a little bit more mobility in that regards. On the W cross hotbar, I got Surecast, Repose, Lucid Dreaming, and Change Stratagem with my Limit Break. So this gives me the ability to pop in here and then go right back to attacking, which is actually really nice, giving me that additional opportunity for those crits, which will just add up for the entire party. It's a wonderful, wonderful ability. I love it very much. If I need to, I can jump in here for a quick raise or a quick cast if I need it. Now I can still do my insta cast as well, so I have a quick access to those abilities. And then you can see here I've got my access to summon, so we'll go over that here more in a second. On the right hand side, I kind of got my more focused wheel of healing. I've got my Physic at low, Lustrate and Succor, Insuna, Indomitability, Sacred Soil, which is a macro. And the reason it's a macro is because it automatically sets it to the target. If you don't have a target present, it will give you the ability to kind of relocate it, but that will be your choice. And then I've got Deployment Tactics. Again, I love to pair Adlo with the Deployment Tactics to give myself the best shields rolling out. Then up here on the W cross hotbar right hand side, we saw Recitation, Excogation, Aether Flow, and Emergency Tactics, along with Protraction and Dispensation and Swift Cast. Now I do have an Aether, or you can put kind of a Mind Tincture or something like that here as well to help boost up your damage, being obviously focusing on the mind. Now on the W or the expanded cross hotbar, you can see here I've got Ruin 2, Swift Cast, Rescue, and Resurrection, Summon Selene, Aether Pact, Summon Eos, and Protraction. Over here, very similar with a couple differences. So for the right and then left, you'll see Expedient, Swiftcast, Rescue, Resurrection, Aether Pact, and Protraction. Again, you can grab all of those from the macro, and then that way you can just kind of apply it. But yeah, hopefully that is helping us in a much faster way of doing the layouts. Now, as we jump into the macros themselves, really, I'm going to go ahead and actually remove the striking dummy so we get that battle music fading out. And then back into user macros. The one and only real macro that you need to pay attention to is Sacred Soil, because if you do use the setup of 7 macros, it will replace Sacred Soil's macro with the actual Sacred Soil. You can see here, Sacred Soil, the target that is selected is where I put it. If I don't have a target, it will give me that ability to choose where to place it. Since I can actually place it right now, you can see here I can do so. Now, if I hold down the right bumper, I can actually use the left stick to go ahead and move it around. And I've got it set up so that it won't go outside the bounds of the range. So it gives me a little bit more control, but I'll leave that choice up to you in case you just want to place it right there. Pressing A will put down the Sacred Soil, and you can go stand in it for the defensive buff and the healing buff as well. And apparently I pissed off that striking dummy with my sacred soil for some reason. I guess there's a dot on him or something. Get over here. Get over here. All right. HUD layout is very important when it comes down to healing. So this is going to be the section in which that you can see here. I've got my party list. Overall, I've got my skill layout, my parameter bar, the things I want to kind of point you to, because a lot of this ends up being very personalized. You want to have a good idea of where your fairy gauge is at. I've got some of my skills that I want to make sure that I'm not sleeping on, listed here on hotbar 4. And then as a part of the status effects and enfeeblements, I've got that actually split out into 3 different bars. So that way I've got my like food buffs up here, because that's not as important. I got my personal buffs right here. And then I've got my enfeeblements right there, so I can kind of see what is applied to me. Overall, and when it comes down to your settings and when it comes to your personalization of your HUD, you can have up to 4 different options that you can choose from. And if you ever want to copy and experiment, you can actually copy whatever HUD to whatever HUD that you want, so that way it gives you some options to explore with. Now, all in all, like, I think that kind of really concludes the video. So there's one last thing that we should do. Let's talk about glamour, and you can see that listed here on my character. If I zoom in, you can see here I've currently got the 560 weapon, you know, so I have to I've got a little work to do on Scholar in terms of gearing. My head, I've got the elegant rimmed glasses as glamoured. Body, in this case, I've got the Scion's Adventurer's jacket, which is glamoured. Then here for the gloves, Royal Sentience glamour. Then for the legs, I've got the Strife bags glamoured. And then for the boots, I've got the Strife boots glamoured. And that's how I essentially kind of get that more tactical look for the Scholar itself. So if I zoom in here, hide my UI, get a much better picture. And then as far as the left-hand side, we're looking at level 90, different accessories to go and grab. But that's my guide. Guys, we did it. So Scholar is hopefully a help for you. If it is and you feel like I earned it, hit that like button and leave a comment for the algorithm to help it out as people search for these things. And if you end up sharing it out, thank you so much for the support here on the channel. So I'm going to wrap up, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully you had a good time with this video, and hopefully you got something good out of it. Hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.